There are many names in the gaming industry nowadays. Most of them will be forgotten, either next month or next year, and some will never be spoken aloud. And then there are also names that will be remembered forever, to be whispered in awe. A few of these names may be Richard Garriott, Roberta Williams, Sid Meier, or also Leroy Jenkins. But one name is definitely on that list: Lowe. Lowe created adventure classics like Leisure Suit Larry and Freddy Farkas, worked as a programmer on other gaming pearls, legendary titles like Police Quest and King's Quest, and also played the sax with the David Hasselhoff Big Band. He taught children how to read musical notes and runs a website on which he shares his wisdom about computer games, information technology, and jokes. Mostly jokes, actually. He also agreed to an interview with Top Hats and Champagne. This is the interview. We were talking about stories a couple of minutes ago, and how story-based games are a bit on a comeback tour right now. But when you look at Steam, for example, all the indie games that come out are mostly platformers with almost no story as well. While there are a few adventure games, most of the games are actually, games you play for 2 or 3 hours, then the game's over because you've seen all levels. So it's not like, or at least in my impression, not many developers, even indie developers, go that route. But earlier you said, of course, that people want to hear stories, and I agree with you. We are a storytelling and story listening to species. So what's going on there?
I think my point there was that it seems to me like a game that has a story will always win out over a game that doesn't. Other things being equal, but I've been disappointed by that, and I maybe this is the one field where that's not going to be true. I certainly hope not, but I don't know.
Now I forgot my line. Anyway. Yes, well, what can we expect?
Well, how long do people actually sit still for this kind of boredom? Maybe we should wrap this up.
Yes, you're totally right. I was almost done anyway, and I think I will split this interview in a couple of parts anyway, because...
Oh, good. Yes. Yeah, I think that would be best for all.
So what can we expect from you in the future?
Well, wait a second. Then I did in the first part, I failed to plug my website.
I think we managed to, but
how are we going to do that?
Do it again. We were
allo.com.
Definitely. I spent a lot of time on allo.com today to research a bit, and it's actually pretty funny. And I looked at some of your articles, like how to properly back up your emails, for example. So you have really random, interesting computer-related stuff on it as well. So I was a bit surprised. It was a bit hidden in the manager, but once you dig yourself through that, it was brilliant.
You got to understand, the site is an adventure game.
Okay.
You have to wander through and find stuff on your own. Yeah, there it's. I make no claims for the user friendliness of the site. It's much more of a puzzle to be solved. So, but when you're there, if you dig deep enough, you'll find that I have a joke database that has about. I have to update it soon because I've got another 1,000 jokes now, but I think it has about 6,000 or more jokes, which you can search with Google type search pattern. It was one of my fans said, "Boy, why don't you put all those things up?" And I said, "Because I don't know how to code that." And he said, "Well, I can do it for you." And he knocked it out for me. And so I give him credit on the site because it's a wonderful database that's searchable, and it has all the Google formats where you can do minus. You can do search for blonde jokes minus wig minus dog.
Right.
And it gives you a list of all the starting line of a whole lot of jokes. Then you can click on it and read the actual joke, and you can copy it and paste it into your Word document and tell it when you have to give a speech to somebody. There's plenty of flexibility in it, and that's hidden on the site. Plus, I have a lot of inside stories about the old days at Sierra. If somebody's listening listened this long to this interview, they would be perfect to go there.
I think at this point they will probably have listened to you for 10 minutes now, because I don't know how late is it? How long did we do this now? An hour or?
Hour and 15 minutes.
Then probably. Let's. I should cut it so that this is actually in the 5th minute of the last video. Then everybody will be able to watch it. Oh, and if they're too lazy to search your site, you can always just subscribe to your Twitter account, because, as you said,
that's true. But I only send out the short jokes on Twitter.
All right.
I don't break them up and not multiple tweets. So you really would be better off to subscribe to the email, because every weekday morning you get 2 jokes, one of which is clean.
Excellent.
At least one.
I need to think about that for a second. One of them. Okay, last question then. What can we see, or what will Lowe do in the next years, in the coming years? Will you enjoy your retirement, drink margaritas, and live with your lovely life, or will you come back and do another run on programming?
I think the Magic 8 Ball says the future is unclear.
Okay, thank you very much for this answer.
I had great hopes that Replay Games would be able to get enough funds out of the first game to keep the series going, but we've had a falling out, and I won't be working with them in the future. And as long as they hold the rights to the Larry intellectual property, they'll have to do the games without me, which I don't know whether they will or not. Yeah. I suspect they won't. But who knows? I would have never thought 2 years ago that we would be talking about a game that we had done last year. Basically, when Replay came to me, they couldn't find funding to produce a remake of any of the games, and it wasn't until Kickstarter came along that we saw a window of opportunity. In fact, it was a wonderful anecdote I've got to share with you, because we went to a conference in Las Vegas, and it turned out the morning after Tim Schafer put up his Kickstarter campaign, and if you know about his, I mean, it was the first successful big project, and he wanted, I think, $400,000, which I thought was crazy at the time. That's not nearly enough to do a game. He wanted $400,000, and he got it within 4 hours, I think, or 8 hours. And the next morning, about 12 hours after I saw he put up his thing, he was at this conference, and I walked up in the lobby and ran into him, and we hugged, and hadn't seen each other 10 years, I guess. And while I talked with him for 5 minutes, he had made $8,000, and he said, "Al, you've got to do one of these projects." And I said, "Yep, we got to do a Kickstarter." So we went back and immediately started work on our Kickstarter campaign. But as I said earlier, I think that Kickstarter games are now dime a dozen, and it's much more difficult now than it was back then. I know I recently read somewhere that the average Kickstarter success rate is something like 30%, and that the average game success rate is 20%. Okay. So it's many more failures than successes there, which of course makes sense. But that was a fun day for me, because it was good to see an old friend, and it was good to see him so successful. Yes. And then of course, after a year and a half, he announced that even though he needed $400,000 and he got $3 million, that wasn't enough to do half a game. So, we did a little better than that. We got our game out in a year and
you
3 months.
Published it, of all things, because many games also did not publish at all after they were funded.
That's right. We finished the game, and I'm proud of it. And we've sent out all of our, or nearly all of our rewards to people. I understand that a couple people in foreign countries had mix-up with mailing addresses or something. And anyway, but I believe we've sent out all the rewards. And I know that I autographed a hell of a lot of books and posters and boxes and other things back in July when we had our big packing party. But it was literally we all flew down to San Antonio and just ended up folding cardboard boxes and I stuffed. In fact, I believe I stuffed almost every disc into every envelope. That was my job, right. And so I just got pretty good at it. So I was just stuffing discs into envelopes just like this.
The life of a gaming industry celebrity.
I know, isn't that amazing? So yeah, but it was fun, and we had a ball doing it, and that was really why I did the whole project. I mean, it was it was the fact that I thought it would be a fun challenge and a fun project, and I got to work with Josh Mandel again, who's one of my favorite people in the whole world, and certainly one of my favorite game designers and writers. And so, to me, it was a win-win situation, even though I didn't get much money out of it. I'm very happy to have done it, and very proud that we did it.
All right, I think we should wrap this up then, because people want stuff.
Yeah, you probably want to go to bed.
It's actually
how long have we been
it's
talking?
prime time. I'm going to sit right in front of the TV and do nothing after that, and sift through all the footage of this interview later. Maybe I'm definitely not going to drink because I had enough of those yesterday. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. For having
you're the best dressed interviewer I've ever had.
Thank you very much, good sir. I had loads of fun, even though my English failed me a couple of times. But maybe we'll need to do this again next year, and then I have a bit more experience in interviewing people.
Sure, it was my pleasure.
Thank you very much, and have a nice morning.
Okay,
bye.